Hello, huddlers. Welcome to today's Expert Huddle. As most of you know, our mascot is a penguin. And not just because, not because actually the penguins are flashy, but because they survive tough conditions by huddling together. And that feels like a pretty good metaphor for being a CMO, particularly B2B CMO right now. Somewhere along the way, though, we collectively lost our sense of humor, and I'm including myself in this group. And so today we're here to challenge that. And our topic is Lighten Up, Why Humor Could Be Your Secret Weapon. So and joining us is Jan McInnis, AKA the work lady. By the way, we got to get at that, what that means. But Jan is a former stand-up comedian turned keynote speaker who helps leaders use humor effectively without trying to be comedians, without offending HR, and without turning staff meetings into open mic night. Although that sounds fun, Jan. Anyway, Jan, welcome. How are you and where are you this fine day?
Thank you, thank you. Good to be on here. I'm in lovely Pasadena. So
I love it. Yes, it
yeah,
is indeed lovely and can be very
Friday night.
nice in this time of year.
Yeah,
All right, we got to get the work lady. So how does a comedian end up with the work lady?
because people can't spell her last name, McInnis. They keep putting a D in it. So I did a lot. Used to when I worked comedy clubs, did a lot of work humor and office humor. So I just thought, let's go with it. We got the church lady with SNL. Let's do the work lady with Jan McInnis.
I love it. All right. Well, that absolutely explains it. And yes, I did misspell your name at one point when I was
Oh, did you?
searching for you. So yeah. And then I realized, no, there's no G in it. Okay.
Yeah, I should. I
So
like Guinness beer, but it's not my name.
yeah. All right. So one of the things we do here in our expert huddles is that we challenge our guests just because in some cases folks need to leave early or we need to convince them to give them a reason to stay. What are three things leaders most commonly misunderstand about using humor at work? And if you can list the three, we can then go through them one by one.
That it's got to be jokes and comedy club funny. No, you're not trying to be a comedian.
Okay.
That they'll bomb. They're always worried about, oh, it's not going to work. Don't worry about that. And that you have to have a funny bone. You're waiting for permission. Don't wait for permission.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the first one, jokes.
Yeah,
Let's get into that. So we're talking about humor
right.
and in the workplace. And so where does not telling jokes fit into being humorous?
What you're trying to do in the workplace is so different than comedy club. You're trying to pull out the humor around you to, kick off a stressful conversation or maybe connect with a client or something. You're not trying to be, joke, joke, joke. Nobody likes that. People don't even like that when comedians are off stage. They don't like, if we're always on. So it's not about writing a joke. It's about just pulling out humor. You're not trying to make everyone fall out of their seats laughing. You want to just use a little bit of uh, light humor. Let everyone know you're approachable. That hey, they do have a sense of humor. A lot of good benefits to using it, but people always think they have to be a comedian, and
Yeah.
no, that
And
when you hear humor at work, yeah,
okay. And part of the reason that they're not using humor is, that, as you pointed out in the second one, which is they're afraid they're going to bomb and there's a fear of it.
yeah.
And I suspect there's a fear on multiple levels that they are being insensitive, that they are not going to be taken seriously. Talk about the getting over the fear of failure when it
Yeah.
comes to using humor.
Sure. First of all, do the humor you think is funny. You'll sell it. You'll enjoy it. You don't focus so much on bombing. I don't know if you ride motorcycles. I ride a motorcycle. Wherever you focus on, you're going to go. If you're staring at the pavement, you're going to hit the ground, right? So focus. Don't focus on. Oh my gosh, I hope they like this. Really, you're trying to just share the humor you see in the situation. Most people in business are happy that you're trying to you add a little bit of humor. They're not, going to get mad if it's not killer funny or whatever. They appreciate that you're trying to lighten the situation. So don't focus on the bombing part. Focus on having fun and pulling out what you think is truly funny.
You know, it's funny that I find personally that I get like in an interview, I'll be so focused on really listening and paying attention that I'll just miss the humor. Right. I'll just miss it. There was a funny thing, and then I'll think about it and go, oh, 30 seconds later, I go, that should have been a moment where we had a little laugh. And
Well,
it's just
yeah, because
so
there's humor all around us. We're not paying attention, and it is a muscle you want to practice. And I can certainly give you some things to look at. But yeah, we miss it so much because we're focusing on the wrong thing. And if you start to focus on, oh gosh, I hope they're going to love this,
right.
you're going to miss the.
Okay. And the third one was funny bone, that you have to have one or don't have one. And this is something that you just inherited. But I will say again, and I find myself saying it's funny. I have a family history of punning. Everybody, my grandfather, my uncle, my father, my brothers, and puns, even though they're the lowest fan of humor, they always get a little groan and they can lighten things up. So
Yeah.
I came from a long line of punners.
Okay.
And so I won't say and at one point in my life, I thought my final career would be stand-up. But there are those who never were around humor necessarily. It wasn't a fun household to grow up in. They don't have necessarily an instinct of funny. So I think this would be a good place to sort of get to working that muscle.
Yeah, it is a muscle. Start looking around. It's all around you. We're just not paying attention to it. But people are kind of waiting for permission and waiting for people to say, "Oh, yes, you can be funny." I mean, I didn't come from a family that was funny. We were funny. I mean, if you get the family inside jokes and stuff like that. But I didn't have an entertainment family, and I just thought I want to do this. Let's try this. So it's a muscle. You got to practice it. Start looking around. Comedians, we've just been doing this so long. We know where to look. We know what to have fun with. We know, where the humor is, and we are always paying attention. So just start looking around your surroundings, and there's humor.
This is a complete sidebar, but a lot of comedians had actually very difficult childhoods.
Yes.
And humor was a way of surviving, both as being sort of the prankster kid in class, right?
Yeah.
As they could get attention, and also just frankly surviving at a very, very tough home environment. It's sort of interesting.
Yeah, well, I was a friend of mine when I first started comedy. I had a fine growing up, but my friend said she watched a comedian on stage, and she said, and she knew him from high school, and she said everything he was talking about, like she knew it was real. A lot of truth is said in jest, and people do talk you connect with the audience, you connect with other people if you talk about, the stuff that you really experienced, and you can make it funny, and that's how people go, oh yeah, that happened to me too. I mean, I joke about just things like even my big feet. I've size 12 foot, which is very hard to find in a woman's shoe. 12 AAA. Growing up was awful. That is one of the jokes that one of the bits people come up and say, oh my gosh, I have the same problem. Where do you shop? Just funny things like that. It's a great way to connect because we have that shared, and even if you didn't have that shared background, you still laugh because you're kind of happy it didn't happen to you.
I have to share this. When I was 18, I was 5'6" and had size 13 shoes. So I figured if I didn't grow, I could join the circus. Because that was going to be
and the puns will work great in the circus there, Drew.
Yeah, well, maybe not. We'd have to go around the and check the rings. So going back to this, there's a certain sort of self-deprecation that feels like it's very safe, a safe area to make fun of oneself or tell stories about oneself.
Yeah. I would, and people kind of always like rules. If you're in a comedy club doing comedy, there's your big one rule is be funny. You can be insulting, you can be whatever you want to be, but they paid you to be funny. But in business, you really want to pay attention to a few rules, and some things are things like don't make fun of a group that you're not a member of. If you're bald, you can have fun with bald. If you're big feet, you can have fun with big feet. If you're not, just stay away from it. Don't go for the low, mean. Joke in a comedy club, sure you can do that, but corporate, you don't want to. I do always do a conference call with clients ahead of time, and they give me ideas, and they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, make fun of her hair, make fun of his divorce." I'm like, "No, we're not going to do that, because they don't get the humor that you don't just go after what is funny. I did a show for 500 blind merchants. I was the only sighted person in the room. They had a great sense of humor, but they said, please don't, they put in my contract, no blind jokes. They've heard them all. And a comedian, you want to get on stage and say something like, hey, I'm naked. Don't, because they've heard it and they had a great sense of humor.
Right.
I did an event for for a group 4,400 people. They ran out of dinner for 1,500 people, and it was plated, and it was their employee appreciation banquet. And I could have gone out there with the low, pulled the curtain back and go, hey, I found them, joked around. People were upset. That was mean. And there was a meeting planner that was backstage crying. So, you got to be sensitive to that when you're doing humor in business, and don't just, take a breath and think about it. Is this going to hurt somebody? Am I part of that group? Am I someone I can have some fun with this? If not, don't,
When you mentioned that one where you were talking to the sightless, the good news is they made sure that you didn't go into that event blind. I think.
See, yeah.
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 And I don't know, that was a fine line. I may or may not have been able to do that because I'm not in that group. But
right. And they've heard it, like you think I did a show for all the postmasters in the country. My friends were always like, oh yeah, going postal. No, they lived through all that stuff, that's not funny to them. So you kind of, and in the office, I always say, use your common sense. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, stay away from probably politics. Use your common sense when you're using humor, so you don't hurt people's feelings.
It occurs to me that before we go into some more exercises that folks can do in building this muscle, we should probably defend the notion of humor in the workplace a little bit more. Yeah. Why do you think it is so important for leaders to find humor in situations and to deploy humor? And maybe you could share some insights on that.
Sure. Great way to, first of all, make yourself look human to your staff and coworkers and clients and that sort of thing. I've had several CEOs say, thank you for joking around with me or our policies or this and that, because it lets everyone know I have a sense of humor. So it really is a nice way to let people know you are approachable. You want to be approachable, and you feel like you can approach somebody who's been joking around a little bit, and let people know there's sort of a human side to you. And I'm not talking about making yourself be so self-deprecating you look ridiculous. You're not trying to bring yourself down. Certainly you just want to make a connection. Don't you get, when you get that aha moment with someone that that they both get your humor, you can cut out a lot of small talk by making a quick connection. Also, okay, say you sit down to a staff meeting and you just had some big issue happen, but you don't want to go into it in depth in the staff meeting, right? You just want to get whatever your agenda is. If you don't address it, people are going to think you don't know what's going on in the company. They stop the free coffee, and if you do address it, you might end up with a 2-hour staff meeting that you didn't prepare for. But if you can just use a little bit of humor, it lets people know, hey, I know what's going on. I know. And then it kind of clears the air a little bit, breaks the tension, and lets people know, hey, I know what's going on. And I'm not talking about making fun of it, but just kind of touching on. I've had to do that in several instances when I get on. I look at it as like I'm getting on stage and something weird has happened ahead of me. That's, I've gotten on stage after the group was almost all laid off. I've gotten on stage, at the last minute, the business fell, they were selling their business and that fell through. And so everybody was happy. But, I've gone on stage after they've been shaking them down for more money, and I've got to go, and there's a bad, energy out there, and I can't just go right into my act. I've gone on stage where the CEO has delivered a very boring speech. It's hard to go, I can't just walk into my act. So you use a few techniques to just jump on and clear the air. One quick acknowledgement that's funny, and it's amazing. It changes the energy, and people are okay, she or he knows that we're dealing with, they just cut the coffee in the break room or something, And not to make
get the
fun of
gorilla
it,
in
but
the room, acknowledge it. And I think that's so important. So there's a certain sensitivity. You don't want to seem, in all of the use of humor, you don't want to seem insensitive. No. I think when you were talking about the use of humor, it really came down to this. One of the things humor can do is make you more likable, more human, more approachable. And I think this is where this conflict lies, because in some cases, there's this notion, well, I don't care if they like me. I want them to respect me first. And those are not ors, but I want to talk about that because that could be a constraint from using humor.
Sure. And if you just want people to follow your rule of law and that's it, and you don't use humor, but
Yeah,
it's a nice way to kind of let people know, to give people some advice, some stuff that's going on in the office, or some new rule or something a little easier. It is a nice way to make you a little more human. And again, we're not talking about jokes, just a little bit of humor here and there. We're not talking about coming out and doing a stand-up routine like you mentioned at the open mic at the office. But certainly, again, I mentioned, you're not trying to be so self-deprecating that you make yourself look, um, like an idiot to your staff. You're not trying to do that. And you're not trying to, be buddy buddy with the staff, but you're
right.
just trying to kind of, hey, here's some information. And sometimes it's not appropriate, but sometimes it is. And sometimes we're missing. I think what I'm trying to get people to do is to not miss the easy stuff in the office, where you can have some fun and you can bring it out. It's not all the time. It's not every subject. It's not every day. But if you start looking around now and start thinking, okay, how can we break this news different? How can I say this a little differently? What can I say that will, you know, make people take it a little easier? That's what you kind of want to use humor with.
So, Jen, I'm really not worried about humor making me seem like an idiot in the workplace. But there's so many other ways that it'll happen.
Me
But
too.
yeah. But I'm going to just wrap up this notion of as a leader, you're building a culture. Ideally, if you can make the workplace a little bit more fun, or if it's serious and you're doing serious things, still lightening things up,
Yeah.
likely, although these are intangibles, will increase employee satisfaction, will increase the likely that they'll work harder with you and for you, and they'll feel more of a human connection. I think all of those things are true when there is a little bit of lightness and levity in the room almost
Right.
all the time.
I've presented keynotes on using humor to every kind of industry. I mean, healthcare, they deal with some serious stuff. They use humor. Education, finance. I mean, I've done, it's, they laugh differently, by the way. They sit and analyze your joke first and then, oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But I've
They
done
take
all,
stock, I think, is
yeah,
really what they're doing. Yeah.
right. And they kind of, they
Yeah.
decide if it's funny or not. But I'm just saying, don't miss the easy stuff. Don't miss, this is another tool in your toolbox as leader. And so many people think, oh gosh, I didn't grow up in a funny family. I don't have a funny, no one's told me I'm funny. No one's given me permission. And they miss such an easy mark, an easy thing to connect. And like you said, the culture, they want to work where it's, where it's a little bit, fun, a little bit more interesting, and you can do that by using a little bit of humor. And maybe you're not going to tell jokes, but maybe, I don't know, funny cartoons or funny things you see that will let people know, as you send out your email and something funny. Hey, we're in finance. I saw this about finance today, or a funny thing, just to let people know you have a sense of humor. It doesn't have to be every time you give a speech, you're trying to find something funny.
Okay, well, let's hammer home this toolbox idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, so I want to get better at using humor in the workplace. I want to build this muscle. What are things that a leader at a very serious business, they may or may not be hitting their numbers, there's tremendous pressure all the
Hmm.
time to perform and get the team to perform, to show efficiency, to show that they're leading using the technology, all this stuff that lacks humor for the most part. Let's talk about some exercises, some training, some ways that they
Yeah.
can. So, I mean, literally, I have to put a Post-it note on my screen to remind myself to just lighten up.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I would say, first of all, list. I'm big on making a list, list of what you see in the room and pulling out the ironies. What are the disconnects? What are the things that don't make sense? I do that when I walk into any environment. I look around and I'm like, okay, what's the temperature? What's the ceiling? What's the audience makeup? and you kind of make a list and pull out what are the disconnects. I did an event one time, and the agenda, the speaker ahead of me was speaking on networking. He said his title of his talk was "Never Eat Lunch Alone." Right after him on the agenda, lunch on your own. I mean, things like that you can pull out and have some fun. So start looking around and really noticing your environment and noticing if you want to pull out the humor. And easy way. Another way, joke formulas. Good news, bad news. All the things we hate about this, all the things we love about this. That's an easy way, or a top list. Top things we hate about this. And you can kind of bring out what people are thinking for sure. By just using a few joke formulas, and you don't have to say it in joke formula, but if you make your list and make good news about this, bad news about this, it'll come together and get outrageous. If you listen to a comedian, we talk in extremes. So someone isn't 100 years old, they're 1,000 years old. They don't weigh 100 pounds, they weigh 10,000 pounds. We look at everything like it's a problem, and we ask the question, how would I solve this if I could solve this any way I want? We come up with extreme solutions to whatever the issue is. So have some fun, make it extremes, use some joke formula type things, and you can do it on your own just as exercise. You get, hey, no more free coffee, and what's good about this, what's bad about this, and have some fun with that to get yourself in the mood, the mindset of finding the humor.
I think that one of the keys I'm just going to is you have to be looking for the humor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it.
You're going to step right over it, and and you're going to miss a really great opportunity to at least get people smiling. It's a drug too, man. I'll tell you, when you get people laughing or get just people smiling, or they connect with you, like I got it. It's really fun. I mean, it's really you'll get addicted to it and you want to do more. And I always tell people, start small. Comedians, we start with maybe 3 minutes at an open mic, because you don't want to see somebody who's never done it do 60 minutes. We can't. So start small. Just start looking around, pull one little thing out. And as you get some nice feedback, you start enjoying it yourself. Sometimes you're just doing it for yourself. You'll want to do some more, and you'll start looking, and after a while, it'll kind of keep popping out at you.
Now, would a CMO sort of share this, or a leader share this and say, I think we need to lighten things up a bit? I mean, would they actually take it, or that's too much, you're showing your strategy and just
it's like being on a radio and someone saying, okay, so tell me a joke.
Right.
How about you just ask me about kids and I'll go into my bit? And I've had that. So yeah, don't go out there and I'm going to be funny and you're going to like it, because then you really set yourself up. If you just go out and start kind of bringing out where you see humor, and the humor you really think is funny. Some people like puns. Some people like knock jokes. If you think it's funny, you'll sell it. You'll enjoy saying it. It won't be any pressure on you, and
right.
Because you're just showing people, hey, I think this is funny, or I think this is ironic, or I think that, I mean, how many memos do we get saying we're going to all go paperless? We got these written memos back in the paperless, back when we were doing written memos. We used to laugh and going, well, I think we could have saved something on that.
Yeah. Use less paper. Right. Get it.
Yeah.
There's also something about the era that we're moving into, which is using AI for everything, where as leaders, showing your humanity more and connecting on a, humorous level is probably more important.
Yes. Okay. First of all, AI can't do jokes. I tried. They can't do very good jokes. But don't let AI can't do the human side of it. In fact, I was just talking to someone. I joined a gym, and the trainer stood me up 3 times to different times, and I said, I finally went to AI and I put in my training and found a great training program to do at the gym, because I thought, here's this trainer who can lose his job to AI if you don't be careful, because you're not being the human side of it. I would prefer to have a human, but he forced me to finally go and put together my own program through AI. So it's something that you can do, and it's a personal thing, and don't let it slip away. Don't let people start using AI and you know, missing that human component.
So I'm imagining that again, there's this meeting with the board,
Yeah.
and the board wants to grill the leader about why the numbers, the pipeline numbers are not exactly what they had hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very serious, intense moment.
Right.
Is there an opportunity for humor, and if so, where?
Well, I would say you really have to know. You first of all, don't use it if the place is hostile. You're not. You're just trying to just a little tension is you trying to
Right.
relieve tension. You don't use it if everyone's hostile and you really hostile and you really have to get a feel for it. If it's going to be a really hostile, tense, we're angry situation, you can't. I mean, you play, use your common sense. Don't do it. Don't also do it if you're really angry about something. Don't walk in and because it's very hard to be funny if you're just forcing it and trying because you're angry about it. So no, you really have to. That's one of those use your common sense. I mean, if the
Well,
board,
as
if it's going to
Harry
be a
Truman
super
said,
serious,
right.
and that's not you, and they don't know you as someone who, like I've done it when I had my day job in marketing. I used humor when we had some serious stuff because that's kind of was my personality.
Right. And they
But
knew that was you. And so they
yeah,
expected it.
yeah, yeah. But if it's going to be, if you're going to be grilled and you think it's going to be bad, no, you can certainly use some later, maybe more subtle stuff, but it's really a case by case. That's I can't say blanketly, hey, go in and start. Well, these numbers stink, but guess what? That I'll give you the good news is the bad news is that you
Yeah,
don't
the
want
good
to do
news
that
is
because you're
I'm
not going to
looking
be
for a
taken
new
seriously.
job.
Yeah, yeah.
The bad news
The good
is,
news is it's not my problem anymore.
yes, exactly. um, yeah, that sounds great. I was thinking as you were talking about if you're angry, what an opportunity at that moment to that's where you're look for the humor. Have that little tag on your computer screen because that's probably self that will save you from yourself if you
Right.
can find the humor when you're angry. It's very difficult to do. Uh,
That's where AI comes in because you put in your really angry email into it, say lighten this up
yeah, exactly.
before I
Yeah.
send it and torch a bridge.
Or that's where a good AI humorist would really like the computer just say, you know what, I'm really pissed off about this, could you make me laugh? And then
Yeah, yeah,
good luck with that. I think they should just call you, Jan. At that moment you can be their comedy therapist.
perfect.
So okay, we've got I like these formulas, the good news, bad news, the top 10, the extremes, the looking for humors. I wonder if there's some more formulas that we should cover just to be sure that
Uh,
we've stimulated some.
well, I'll tell you one technique comedians use when something's happened on stage ahead of us and we can't just go right into our act. We use the a survey. I'll do like a quick survey. Go out like I did that event where people paid a lot of money. It was a fundraiser, and they paid a lot of money to be there. And it was at a hospice, and a nun went out ahead of me and started sort of beating them all up for more money and was saying, hey, uh, we're halfway through building the new wing on the hospice and we were $5 million short. Basically, pony up for everyone. It was very tense, very, and then they pushed me out there. I can't go right in, So I just did a quick survey, and it's a nice technique you can use at a staff meeting or something. Just hey, quick survey. Sister Teresa just said we're halfway through building the new wing on the hospice, and we are $5 million short. Quick survey. How many people think we should not tell that to the construction crew? Quick piece of, and it
Right,
wasn't making fun of it. It was
right,
addressing it. Survey
right.
is a really good one if you just want to acknowledge something. I mentioned the CEO right after Super Bowl. I guess he was trying to do some motivational thing, and I had licensed to have fun with the CEO, but he was trying to do some motivational thing. It wasn't going well. He was trying to do a whole analogy between this was years ago between life and the Super Bowl, and he was not going well. He was putting kind of a bad energy around everything. So he ran off stage after about 10 minutes and pushed me out there. And of course, I can't go right into my act, so I just did the survey. Hey, quick survey. How many people hope next year during the Super Bowl, Bill does like the rest of us and just drinks a beer? And got great laugh. I had licensed to have fun with him, but nice way to kind of transition. I don't have to say anything else, and I can move on. So survey method's certainly a nice thing to clear the air a little bit.
So I'm thinking of scenarios, and here's some interesting things that are happening right now. See, Mose, we were talking about this in Huddles. They'll get a lot of input and feedback in writing and in person with their CEO, and they actually can create a sort of avatar of the CEO that they can then ask and query and create slides for that are in their personality and, really manage up well as a result of using AI. What they're not also doing at that moment, they're solving the problem, but they're not necessarily lightening things up at any point in time. And I'm just wondering and you said earlier that AI can't write humor, but I do think that it can help you. If you've established a tone that is lightened up, it could help you, remind you even to.
Yeah, well, solving the problem. I mean, you could ask, that just made me think, because I did use it for an event recently. I was coming up with some funny ideas for solving this problem, and I threw it into AI. It wasn't great, but it gave me some stuff to build on.
Right.
So the ideas, and I'm not saying it can't do humor. It does. It's not really what I've seen. It hasn't been really great, but it has been good at. I said, hey, here's the scenario. Give me 10 solutions or 20 solutions that are kind of outrageous and funny. And it came up with some stuff that I built on. I didn't use verbatim from the chat, but so that's a
So
use of it.
I mean, I think about like the old thing about when you're giving a speech, you imagine that the audience is naked and that should help you eliminate the humor. That actually never worked for me. But I like the nervous energy, and
Yeah.
singers do a la 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 la. They have their whole exercise. Are there warm-up exercises that comedians do? And is there anything that we could offer? Now, again, these folks are not doing stand-up, but just to sort of remind themselves
One
to,
thing, yeah.
yes,
Well, I like that sort of, it's not nervous energy, but it's kind of, excited energy, I think.
right.
What I do is, so many times we're so focused on what we're going to say, our speech, we're not paying attention to the other speeches. And so I like to watch the people ahead of me, the speakers ahead of me, and just envision, what would I say? How would I add something funny in there? How would I add something funny in there? And you might find something you can play off of when you walk up there. If they've been talking about one thing, and you might be able to say, well, I was just, and make something funny about that. So I think listening, not just staying in your own head, is a great way to warm up and to get yourself thinking funnier. How would I fix their speech? How would I add to that? Um,
And again, I think it's such a smart strategy in general, because one of the things is, as a marketing leader, the leader is trying to be leader first, marketing second, business person first. And if, let's say, the CFO presented the data on something or other and it was a little dry, but you could find a little bit of humor. You're showing that you were paying attention, you're connecting
yeah,
dots, and yet you are also lightening up the room. It feels like a win-win if you do it right.
I was just gonna say, when you said data, good, we're thinking on the same term, because facts and figures and data and things are great because you can flip it around. Our survey says 42% of people like the color blue, and what do the other 58% like? I mean, you can flip the data. You can always come up with funny or complementary facts or figures or something like that really quick if you've been doing it. Look on. I always, before if I'm trying to find humor for a group, look on their website. They'll always have, information about the city, or, all the data and the facts and figures. And those are so fun to make outrageous or different, or something funny about it, and then move on, So yeah, data is great. Paying attention to what the other people are saying and coming up with, and just one quick little thing will connect. I do that when I'm emceeing for a company. I listen to what they're saying and what the reports are, and then I can come up with something. Hey, they just said that, but here's what they really didn't realize. Um,
Does it help to watch comedians perform for non-comedians? I mean, I'm just thinking, my wife and I love to watch these various comedians, and they all have slightly, but like Seinfeld's a classic at sort of observing the little minutia of life,
yeah,
right? And it is once you sort of know Seinfeld, you see Seinfeld things all the time. Seinfeld humor all the time. And you can, similarly, if you're a Mel Brooks fan, you can see that
yeah.
moment coming. Is there
I
value for folks besides the fact that it's funny, it can be funny, and it will lighten up your life a little bit?
Sure. And I say, sure, obviously don't take any jokes without giving credit to them, but you can
Right.
see how they're thinking, what their thought processes are, and see how the different kinds of, the setup punch humor, which is what I do, versus stories versus, and what do you think is what resonates with you when you want to use some humor. Or, oh, how did that comedian talk? Look how they talked, and they drilled down on the subject. They didn't just hit, oh, my family has had a crazy Thanksgiving, but they kind of drilled down on why, and they ask a lot of questions. And that's what I would say with your group too. To you want to practice that humor muscle, ask questions. Look around you. Why did that happen? Who did that happen? How many people could that be? Who, what, when, where, why? That's what we always come up with. Why are they doing it this way? Who is involved? Who else does this affect? Have that list of questions, and then get outrageous with that list of questions. So why did they do this instead of this? Why did and you can really come up with some fun. Why does that fact and figure? Why is that data scary, or why is that data happy, or why are we happy about that? Stuff like that, and you come up with some great humor, some easy humor, um, by just asking questions. Run it through some questions.
And like so many skills, this is a skill that you have to start. You have to put yourself out there at first. And so again, you can practice with a small group before you open up at
Yeah.
Radio City.
Now
And
I would say
maybe,
yes. And when
right?
I started comedy, I decided don't ever do this. I would be around my friends and I would just throw out a few ideas for jokes. And if they didn't get a laugh, that would make me scared. So I wouldn't use it. So don't try to be that person, always trying to throw out jokes. But yeah, start small. Like I said, just start with something. Find something the next time you're going to send out a funny memo. You can be outrageous in the subject line of it. We use what are those idioms? A penny saved is a penny earned, or a penny saved is a penny that better be on your expense account. And then there's subject lines that can grab people's attention and get them to want to read more. So start out small, pick something you want to have fun with, one thing, just try it,
Right.
one irony, one top list, doesn't even have to be top 10, just a top list of things that we can drink besides coffee. Now they don't have coffee in things like that. I
Right.
mean,
And it's interesting because we are, as marketers, in the business of communication, and some are creating advertisements, and in B2B, there's such a lack of humor in the advertising that when one actually is funny and uses it, it stands out like crazy.
yeah,
But there's a reminder. I mean, the most memorable Super Bowl ads are typically either really heart touching, like the Budweiser horse and the eagle thing, really sweet,
yeah,
or they're just funny. I mean, the Neil Diamond Hellman's ad just cracked me up on so many different levels. There was so much humor built into it. And there's a reminder that we know inherently that humor makes you more memorable. It opens up the door. It makes people pay attention. But I think the biggest thing of all of this is you have to remind yourself that it matters in the workplace too.
it
Because
does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you could go a whole month in communication with your team internally and not use humor once.
right. Yeah, and you forget, and
And
you
you
forget.
forget. And by the way, if you forget to do it, your team is going to forget to do it. So everybody's going to be heads down test, and it's going to be more dreary.
And think of your team. If you had some funny fact in an email, I mean, we use this method when we're emceeing. one funny thing, people want to open the next email you sent, because you were funny. It was a little bit interesting, or you had a funny statistic or something. Some statistics that are real are funny. You can use
Right.
real funny stuff. They might want read the next one you send out. And when
Right.
we MC, we might start out with talking about our cat. Well, next time I come up, they want to hear about the cat again. So they want to hear more. So yeah, we've got to remember to
Well,
use it.
I realize I need to challenge myself more. We do a lot of communications with the Huddles community, a weekly recap, and I have not had very many, funny, humorous subject lines. So better lead by example here. Uh,
Yeah.
so we'll work on that a little bit as a way of reminding
Yeah,
folks.
take those idioms like penny saved, penny earned, all those uh, um, um, I'm trying to think of a couple other idioms. Take some of those and just change them around. Fast, easy humor.
Yep.
Acronyms. I mean, every business has acronyms. Nobody speaks an entire sentence anymore. Change a few definitions. Have some fun with that. People will get it, and laugh um, and
Right.
RFP, really frustrating paperwork. We all have to deal with that. So, you just change a few things around and um, gives people a chuckle. Again, you're not trying to be belly laugh, killer funny. You're not trying to be joke, joke, joke and be a comedian. You just start small, do a little bit, have some fun with it.
Well, on the laugh meter of 0 to funny, you can get to 5, you're fine. A chuckle is just fine. Because
Fun.
right now we're mostly at 1s and 2s here on that
Right,
laugh
right.
meter. We're not moving that needle at all.
And you want to be memorable. I mean, the Super Wads, what were they, $8 to $10 million for 30 seconds? You can do it much cheaper than that. And some of them were not funny and tried to be. It's okay. Sometimes you remember that too.
Yeah,
But it does
the
make you
groaners.
memorable. Clients, potential clients, coworkers, staff, everyone appreciates some humor. I would think most people appreciate some humor.
I just want to remind the live audience that if any of you have any questions, please put them in chat. Or if you really want to come on camera, just be ready to tell us. Raise your hand, and we'll bring you on stage here. But bring your humor, your
And check your
funny bone with you.
background.
Yes, exactly. So uh, you're coaching, but whether it's live or when this goes out as a podcast, a room full of CMOs, and we're doing this for the next 90 days. What consistent habits would you want them to build so that humor becomes intentional rather than accidental?
Lists. Walk in and make a quick list of what do you see around the room. What looks different, funny. Just start making lists and being intentional for looking for ways to do it. Like I said, idioms, good news, bad news. Just look at and listen. Really listen to what other people are. If someone's speaking ahead of you, what can you play off of? What piece of that? But I would say pick one thing. Just okay. I'm going to make a list of everything I see for the next. When I walk into this conference hall, I'm going to write down the the centerpieces and the people walking around and the colors on the table, just everything. And soon stuff just starts popping out. Look at the agenda. Look at the giveaway. I mean, I was at a conference. They're giving away solar powered flashlights. I'm like, really? This works well in the sun. People don't think of that stuff. So look at the. I mean, I got a grooming kit one time. They're giving out grooming kits. We all kind of think we look good when we show up at a conference, right? I'm like, was I the only person who was handed a grooming kit when I showed up? So things like that we aren't paying attention to. Look at, ask questions. Look around, ask questions about your environment. Make lists, ask questions.
And yeah, the paying attention part is so key because the minute you are, you will see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the minute you practice it. So step one is open up to the opportunity, right?
Right.
Open up to the value of humor in the workplace.
Right.
Look for humor. You talked a lot about sharing other things that you see funny. And it's funny, my wife probably sends me 2 different funny Instagram things a day. And she'll say, these are funny, you got to look. And they're usually animals doing stupid things or babies doing stupid things.
Right.
There's got to be some work equivalents of that, the Instagram sharing
Right,
that you could do, right? That's what you were talking
right.
about earlier.
And you can always have fun with the competition. You're trying to, what are they doing differently that you're doing, or what can you, um, I did a show for John Deere, the tractor company. That's a good name for a company, right? Deere, sleek, fast, runs like a deer. I said, what do you think the guys over at Caterpillar were thinking? I mean, you have some fun with the different sort of uh, uh, comparing the two. Your competition, things like that. You can have fun.
We do have a question about international, European sensibilities versus American sensibilities. Uh, you're going global, Jan. What do you need to be thinking about when you're
You
in
need to know the
Hamburg?
Ooh, you need to know the culture for sure, because you can get yourself in some trouble for that, for sure. I did an event one time where the CEO was from not the U.S., and I was rocking the room with jokes about the company, not mean, just jokes, but he did not understand that that's what comedians do, and he just the glaring at me, ready to kill me. I got about 5 minutes into the jokes about the group, and I stopped doing those jokes and went into my act because it was very uncomfortable for me. But the place was rocking, and it was a great, they were having a great time. But even the employees did not realize, and they later said, "Wow, we did not realize he would not get that American companies can make fun." So make sure you know the culture. I would really be very careful and do very little until you know kind of where you can go with it.
And I would think you would really want to avoid wordplay because
Yes,
because that's really, unless you're going to try to make a pun in a different language that is
yes,
the language of the people,
yeah,
uh, because
yeah,
otherwise any sort of uh, attempt at a pun will just, because they're thinking of words very literally.
right, right, and puns and yeah, word plays, and they're not even using the same words. A stone, weight, pounds versus stones in England, and the joke just does not translate fun.
Yes, yes, that's a weighty observation. So I appreciate
But
that.
also be very careful when you do other countries, like when you go, I did some thing in Canada, and they were like, well, don't make fun of the fact that we're in kilometers, because every American comedian does that. It's not funny to us because it's kind of overdone. I mean, that's, again, don't do sort of the tried and true and easy humor, because they said everyone that comes into Canada, so yeah, you're, wow, 1,000,000 kilometers versus 10 miles. They're just, it was, it was a bad joke. And so I obviously didn't do that. So watch, trying to make fun of things that you think instantly are funny. They may have heard it, that they don't get it because it's just not funny to them.
Right. So I think we're really talking about knowing your audience here. And if you're in an international audience, you are going to be struggling because you can't make us the same sort of sense of, oh, it's a bunch of Americans in the room. And therefore you have a sense of you're in a similar place, at least from a language standpoint. Okay.
Right.
This, at the risk of being repetitive, what are 3 key takeaways you hope CMOs in this listening now or future in the podcast glean from today's conversation?
Please try it. Just, or don't try, do it. Pick one thing. Second thing, start looking around for it. Listen to the person who's speaking ahead of you. Look at the environment, really start paying attention. And number 3, once again, I would just say, please don't worry about bombing. Don't focus on it. Don't focus if you're you know staying away from hot topics, and you're not being uh, derogatory to others. Fine. Use your common sense when you're using it.
I
So
love it. Okay, so we are going to put post-it notes on our screens that say, look for humor. Look for that
right.
humorous moment and particularly practice with your teams first, not necessarily in a boardroom. Then you can sort of maybe expand to partners and
Yeah. Do
maybe, you can sort of keep working. But there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, which is
There
better,
is.
stronger human connections with the people that you're working with. Jan, where can people find you and how do they engage with you?
Great, because nobody can spell my last name.
Yes.
Theworklady.com. Jan at theworklady.com. I would love to hear from people, and if you got any questions, feel free to send them over. I'd love to help you out and encourage you more humor and using more humor.
All right, Worklady, theworklady.com. And that's Jan. Thank you so much for reminding us that leadership doesn't require a poker face, at least all the time.
Yeah.
And huddlers, thank you for huddling and perhaps loosening up together.